So, a powerful god known as the Greater Will decided to send a golden star to the lands between, a magical place beyond the fog, where apparently you can't even die. But we'll get to that in a bit. Why'd he do it? Probably wanted some more power, like he didn't have enough already. How's a friggin' golden star gonna give him power over the land though? Well, he also sent a huge-ass beast on top of it, the Elden Beast, which was essentially the physical representation of the Greater Will in the lands between. It would later become, you guessed it, the Elden Ring. What even is the Elden Ring? Like, do you become a demon king with a harem of big-titty anime elves when you wear it?
Oh, rise now.
Well, not really. It's basically made up of runes of power that set up the rules for the world to follow. So, it represents order. Order has two fundamental aspects. Law of causality, basically fuck around and find out, like infinite cause and effect. And then there is the law of regression, which says all things come back to the roots. The Elden Ring is inside the Erdtree, which is a gigantic golden tree that takes the souls of anyone who dies in the lands between. But wait, how did we even get a huge soul-devouring tree like this in the first place? Unlike what the Golden Order cult controlling the lands between wants you to believe, life did not start with the Erdtree. In fact, there was another tree that existed way before the Erdtree, the Great Tree. Now, this Great Tree had something called the Primordial Crucible, which is the true source of all life in the lands between. Think of the Crucible as a sort of a melting pot in which everything and everyone was blended together. So that's pretty much where all life started. It's safe to assume that the Great Tree and the Primordial Crucible were quite powerful. Now, what happens when a greedy outer god sees something that's extremely powerful and isn't under his control? Yeah, he tries to take over it by any means necessary. Now you see the whole thing with the Golden Star and the Beast Star to make more sense. The Greater Will basically replaced the Great Tree with his parasitic Erdtree so as to expand his dominion over the lands between. And he didn't really care about doing it too peacefully either. As expected, the already existing factions resisted the order established by the Erdtree in the beginning, but were subdued due to a series of wars. More on that later. To establish his order in the lands between, the Greater Will sent messages to the Two Fingers. But there's a problem. They can't move or talk. They are literally just two creepy-ass fingers. So they hired witches to translate their gang signs into prophecies. These prophecies will later be told to the Tarnished, but we'll get to them later in the story. Enter the Empyreans. These were powerful beings chosen by the Fingers to serve the Greater Will as potential vassal gods in the lands between. Each Empyrean would be given a shadow, typically a huge wolf, to serve them unconditionally. All this background information is important to understand the single most important character in the game, Marika, who also happens to be an Empyrean. Marika was smart. In fact, she was so smart that she removed the concept of death altogether from the lands between. Remember when we said the Elden Ring consisted of runes that governed the world? Well, after becoming a god, Marika plucked the rune of death, aka destined death, from the Elden Ring and gave it to her loyal wolf Malekith for safekeeping. That ugly motherfucker then proceeded to imbue with his sword to create a black blade that could basically kill anyone. Actually, it's the only thing that can kill anyone because the death rune has been removed. How convenient. Now, after she had literally removed death, Marika became Queen Marika the Eternal. This was the beginning of the religious cult known as the Golden Order. Marika served as the god, while the Elden Ring and Erdtree represented her claim to power. As you can expect, the Golden Order wasn't exactly received well by some of the ancient factions existing in the lands between. There were flame-wielding fire giants that could burn the Erdtree, so you had to deal with them. Also, a race of powerful dragons that posed a threat and a whole army of moon sorcerers too. So, Queen Marika knew she would have to fight multiple wars to establish her order's legitimacy. She couldn't do it alone though, so she got married. She found a crazy strong war-craving simp named Orlu. Thus, he later became Godfrey, the first Elden Lord demigod and king consort to Marika. Godfrey was a fierce tier 3 sub who won many battles for his queen. The power couple committed genocide on the entire race of fire giants except one who was cursed by Marika to look after the Flame of Ruin for eternity. So begins the Age of the Erdtree, with the Golden Order's dominance reigning supreme. Godfrey also fathered 3 demigod children with Marika, starting what is known as the Golden Lineage. Godwyn the Golden was the first of the pair's 3 sons. He bravely led the charge against the dragons when they attacked Leyndell, the capital city of the Erdtree champions. Godwyn ended up befriending an ancient dragon, Fortisax, after defeating him. This somehow started a dragon cult within the city, and the Knights of Leyndell gained the ability to wield lightning. The other 2 sons, Morgoth and Mog, were not so lucky. They were omens, which basically meant they were cursed with horns all over their body and head. The Golden Order did not like horns, at all. Morgoth was banished from society, and Mog got literally sent to the underworld. Anyways, as the enemies of the Golden Order fell one by one, Queen Marika and her empire grew stronger than ever. The toughest retaliation they ever got was probably from the House of the Moon in Liarnia. The House of the Moon was led by Rennala, a powerful moon mage. Her faction consists of the Academy and the Carian royal family. The war seemed to never end until one day, Queen Rennala met a red-haired John, Radagon, a champion of the Golden Order. The two met in battle and were like, fuck it, let's get married and end all war. And that is exactly what happened. Radagon smashed Rennala and they had 3 kids. Lunar Witch Ranni, which took after her mother's lunar magic, Star-Scorched Radon, an accomplished general who loved experimenting with gravity, and a freak named Rykard that fed himself to a giant snake. So, after conquering the shit out of the lands between, Queen Marika started having some doubts about the Golden Order. She started questioning the motivations of the Greater Will and the Order itself. Better late than never, huh? She took away the grace from her husband and his warriors, sending them out on a long march to a land far away, from where they were to return one day. Thus, they became the Tarnished. Soon after Godfrey and his Tarnished warriors left the capital, Radagon saw a chance and left Rennala to come back to Leyndell. He succeeded in raising Marika, becoming her second husband and consequently the second Elden Lord. Well played. Poor Godfrey was replaced quicker than Taylor Swift's ex. His union with Marika gave birth to the cursed twins, Michaela and Millennia. What happened to Rennala, you might wonder? Well, she got crippling depression and her house fell into a civil war. It was sometime after this that Ranni, the Lunar Princess, decided to steal a fragment of the Root of Death from Malekith and used it to forge god-slaying knives. In a strange plan to bring forth a new age, she collaborated with the Black Knife Assassins who killed Godwyn using her newly forged knives. Then she killed herself too. The Rune of Death in the Erdtree's roots gave rise to Deathroot, an affliction that caused some skeletons to reanimate and become hostile. Overall, it wasn't a very pleasant scene for the worshippers of the Erdtree. Saddened by Godwyn's death, Marika decided to shatter the Elden Ring, a step that would completely alter the history of the lands between. Radagon, in an attempt to fix shit up, tried to repair the ring, but to no avail. This brought forth the wrath of a certain disdainful outer god, who imprisoned Marika within the Erdtree as punishment for trying to escape the Matrix. Things quickly went south after this, as the Golden Order went to shit. The great ruins of the Elden Ring were eventually inherited by Marika's demigod children, who started fighting each other and lost the Greater Will's grace. The Shattering gave rise to many conflicts in the lands between, which slowly turned into the accursed wasteland you encounter in your game. However, at some point after the Shattering, the Tarnished came back to the lands between guided by grace. They even got help from the Two Fingers, which implies that Greater Will wants them to be there. The Tarnished are now tasked with becoming Elden Lord and returning the Golden Order to its former glory. But turns out, even after their best efforts, they can't do shit. This is until the Tarnished with an actual brain crosses the fog. That is you, the player. Rather than being at the mercy of 2 giant fingers, you will meet Melina, a strange woman who will guide you through the lands between. There is strong evidence to suggest that Queen Marika herself is behind your quest and that she has appointed Melina to guide you. Speaking of Marika, it appears she is Radagon, or that Radagon is herself. What we mean by that is that they are one, unified. They might have been separate entities, but in-game evidence seems to suggest that they somehow unified after the Shattering, which is quite strange, but makes sense. As Radagon is also imprisoned with Marika in the Erdtree, even though he tried to oppose that bitch when she was smashing the Elden Ring. There is also the possibility that they were always the same. and Marika herself went on to have children with Renella to accomplish some sort of grand scheme. Very strange, yes, but possible nonetheless. Like and subscribe, or I will terrorize your local ice cream shop.